On a small island just off the mainland sits a castle. It waits, isolated in disrepair, as a young, horned boy is brought to it in shackles. As he is loaded into one of many identical coffins that line the walls of a large chamber, he is told by one of his captors not to be angry. After all, this is for the good of the village. This boy is ICO, and his horns mark him the bearer of a curse. Blamed for any and all misfortune in the village, it is fate for the horned boy, born once a generation, to be sacrificed on his 12th birthday. The coffin is closed, and he is left alone. We of course wouldn't have much of a game if our protagonist was sacrificed as planned, but it's of note that he does not free himself. ICO is freed not by his own wit or the helping hand of a good Samaritan. It is instead dumb luck and the disrepair of this castle that frees the boy. A small victory, as he is still trapped on this island in this lonely place, but he is at least no longer restrained. The horns he bears still mark him cursed, and given his lot in life, there may not be anything for him. No family or home to return to. A heavy truth. Heavy enough to crush one beneath if enough attention is paid to the weight of it. ICO focuses instead on the present, the immediate reality that there is nothing for him here, and it is time to leave. ICO would soon discover that he is not alone, and his goal is no longer to escape, it's to escape together. By my estimation, ICO is one of the great works of the medium, and this introduction to its setting and our main character is one of the best I can think of. We immediately understand ICO's world and how cold it is to him, and it speaks volumes that his first thought when seeing a stranger locked in a cage is to help her. Cruelty can be contagious, and it takes a great strength of character not to pass it on once it has been forced upon you. When isolated with no support, it can be very easy to simply accept that isolation, give up on the world, and not look for a way forward, to be mistrustful, judgmental of others given past experiences. Not our ICO. This little guy just wants to help, and I think that rubs off on the player just a bit. If ICO wants to help, so do we. This girl is Yorda. There is a language barrier between them, and once freed from her cage, Yorda is almost immediately attacked by shadow creatures. Having been locked in a cage for who knows how long, she is in no condition to resist them. As young ICO, we desperately flail and fight them off with a stick. ICO notes that the creatures are clearly after her, and that it's too dangerous for them to stay. He extends his hand to her, and while looking for an exit, they learn that certain parts of the castle respond to Yorda, that in this place, she is a living key of sorts. Working together, they may be able to find a way out. Gameplay-wise, ICO is a kind of third-person puzzle adventure. Our titular character will need to figure out how best to interact with the environment in order to progress forward and ultimately escape the castle. Whether it's climbing and shimmying on ledges, ropes and chains, flipping switches, lighting torches, using bombs to clear obstructions, and tons more, all while keeping Yorda safe from the shadow creatures that show up from time to time to reclaim her. Our control scheme is simple and intuitive, with triangle, the highest face button, being used to jump and grab ledges, while X, the lowest button, is for letting go and dropping off of stuff. Circle is for interacting with items, and square swings ICO's weapon. R1, of course, is the most important button, and is used to take Yorda's hand or call her to ICO if they are separated. ICO is a very easy game to pick up and fall right into, and by the time the player is introduced to Yorda and fights off their first shadow, they'll have a good idea of how the game works, alongside the basic skill set needed to move forward, keep Yorda safe, and make their escape. And they will want to help these kids escape. It's not just one individual thing that makes ICO special, but I'm of the opinion that the game's greatest accomplishment is the empathy it fosters in the player. We know right away how hard ICO's life is. We also see from his immediate desire to help Yorda that this world hasn't beaten him down. However, ICO is no action hero. He's expertly hand-animated like the awkward 12-year-old he is, with flailing arms and stumbling running. Combat in this game is the opposite of a power fantasy, and very much makes you feel like a child, desperately fighting off monsters. In the thick of it, when Yorda is surrounded on all sides by shadows and ICO is doing his best to beat them back, the player will wish they were stronger, faster, able to do more than what their little body is capable of, just like ICO would. But just like ICO, they won't give up, because just like ICO, they have someone here who needs their help. Yorda is many things, plays many roles. She's a fairy tale princess, locked in a cage by her mother, who is of course an evil queen, a would-be sacrifice, cursed by the circumstances of her birth, not unlike ICO himself. As previously mentioned, she is a kind of living key in this place and must be protected for player progression. Yorda is mechanically important, but before she is any of that, she is a person in trouble, someone ICO wants to help. And this simple fact is what makes Yorda the other half of the emotional core of this game. Yorda is a person. Keeping her safe quickly becomes our goal, but she is not an object. This focus on Yorda as a character can bleed into her role as a gameplay function in sometimes frustrating ways. She doesn't always listen, doesn't always go where you want her to. She freezes in the presence of shadows. She takes little initiative and will often need to be led by the hand to get the results the player wants in this video game for the PlayStation 2 home video game console, a video game product purchased for money and played in leisure time. Yorda can be a source of frustration, and how dare this collection of AI routines, polygons, and hurtboxes hold up our precious progress in such a manner. Definitely gonna have to knock a point or two off of my numerical video game review score for such an obvious flaw. What were they thinking? But for me at least, it's hard for the empathy not to creep back in, to imagine what it must have been like to be locked in that cage. How long has it been? Has she ever been out of that thing? Is the only other face she's seen through those bars her mother's, eyes filled with greed and entitlement to her very existence? Is ICO's hand, the hand of an odd little boy with horns who speaks a language she can't understand, the first extended to her out of a genuine desire to help, with nothing expected in return? Is this Yorda's first time feeling the wind in her hair or the grass beneath her feet? Just look at how she plays with the birds. ICO wouldn't leave her behind, and neither would I. As an art form, video games can be a frustrating medium to discuss. Much of even the most well-meaning analysis is still trapped within the framing of product review, and some nebulous concept of value for money or time spent. But how do you quantify an experience like ICO? Make no mistake, this game does not need defending. For every random user review or forum post complaining about Yorda's AI, or the devs daring to make an entire game out of the much maligned escort mission, you'll find no shortage of praise for ICO. That is indeed a high Metacritic number. You don't even have to look very hard on this website to find videos calling it a masterpiece, and that's to say nothing of ICO's reputation as the game that inspired the Dark Souls man himself, Hidetaka Miyazaki, to start working in the medium. It does culturally somewhat live in the shadow of its popular younger brother, but what are you gonna do? You got a slower puzzle game about the unlikely bond formed between two unloved children, or the game where you climb on and kill big monsters. Which one do you think is gonna get a highfalutin PS4 remake? I suppose there is a joke here, somewhere, about how your average gamer would rather literally climb a kaiju and stab it in the brain than hold a girl's hand, but I digress. I am, however, still endlessly frustrated with Sony's treatment of ICO as a work of art. It's ridiculous that this game isn't just a permanent fixture of Sony's classic re-releases. There's no good reason, when you decide you're going to put PS2 games on the PS4 or whatever, that ICO shouldn't be part of the first release wave, alongside Dark Cloud or Primal or whatever else first-party titles you got ready to go. No shade to those other games, but come on, it's ICO. It's pretty obvious that game company suits are more often than not embarrassed by their back catalogs, which again does say something about how we view and treat this medium as an art form, but ICO has aged so beautifully. The art direction, from the character designs to the architecture of the castle, is stunning. The castle being this labyrinthian puzzle box that loops back on itself makes progression ridiculously satisfying, and the game is intuitive enough that anyone can pick it up and play, and everyone should. I didn't play ICO when it was new. I mean, with that box art, can you really blame me? Like, I'm supposed to walk into my local Game Crazy in 2001, push Silent Hill 2, Grand Theft Auto 3, and Devil May Cry out of the way like so much purple stuff in front of the Sunny D and reach for this? I did get around to the game eventually as part of the 2011 PS3 HD bundle that included both ICO and the aforementioned Kaiju Brainstabber Shadow of the Colossus. The latter game by that point having built up a reputation alongside a handful of others as a flag bearer of sorts for a very narrow and defensive view of video games as an art form. Really felt like a must-play for anyone that took the medium quote-unquote seriously like I did, a work that proves to all the doubters that video games can be art alongside books or cinema. Take that, Roger Ebert. What I didn't realize then, and what many still don't realize now, is that art isn't a descriptor of quality, and that's as true for video games as it is for any other medium. Video games have always been art. You can close your eyes right now and think of the worst movie, book, or video game you've ever engaged with, but that perceived poor quality doesn't make it not art, just makes it bad art. Still art though. All of it has something to say, often even more than its creators realized when making it. How we relate to a work and what it may teach us about the world or even ourselves is what I think makes art so integral to this human experience we share in. Whether it's the somber critical darlings, the sexualized hyper-violent gore fests, and everything in between, there is a lens with which a work views our world, and that is valuable, even if it isn't always profound. Video games, of course, are interactive, and that is a great strength of the medium. Embodying a game protagonist can have a personal element to it that can be hard, if not impossible, to capture in other art forms. The player doesn't just relate or empathize with their character's struggles or bonds. If everything lines up just right, they share them. Towards the end of ICO, the pair get separated. Since freeing Yorda from her cage at the start of the game for at least a couple real-life hours, the two have been ascending and looping around the castle main gate in an attempt to get it open, solving puzzles and working towards an escape. together. Opening the gate clearly puts a great deal of stress on our companion, and I can never bring myself to drag her into a run in that state. I always have us walk slowly out the front once the heavy door is no longer in our way. Almost there. This place, however, will not let her leave. Yorda is intercepted by her mother, and ICO falls to the depths of the castle. He is alone. Again. I suppose if I was a real gamer, this would be the best part of the game to me. Finally freed from the shackles of the escort and bad NPC AI, I can focus on platforming and puzzle solving at my leisure and without having to worry about anyone else. Finally, I can just play the game, right? Well, I hate this part. On replays, I dread this part of the game. The climb back up is just so lonely. You can make fun of me for this if you want, but I can still remember vividly the kind of animal panic I felt upon regaining control of ICO and immediately beginning my frantic climb back up the castle. I didn't want to be alone, I just wanted my friend back. It was at that moment I was able to step outside of myself and realize what Fumito Ueda and his team had done here with ICO. They didn't just tell a story or make an adventure game, they made me feel something. Made me care deeply about someone who just a few hours prior I didn't even know existed. Someone whose language I couldn't understand, but someone who needed my help all the same. They gave me this kid to inhabit and see through in his goals, and I don't know if I've ever felt more connected to a character in anything, video game or not. At that moment, ICO and I were one and the same. Neither of us wanted to be alone again. We both just wanted our friend back. Artistically, there is so much to notice in any given video game. Whether it's the visual design of a world and its characters, a beautiful soundtrack, or how a story is written and performed, places where the craftsmanship shines through and is easy to appreciate. Individual pieces of the whole that can maybe even be evaluated on their own in a vacuum if one is compelled for whatever reason to rate a video game numerically, but those number grades assigned to graphics or ease of control could never answer what to me is the single most important question when discussing this medium as an art form. A question I have a very loud answer for when I think of my role as the player, the horned boy, the caged girl, and the bond we all shared. It isn't how good are the graphics, how many melee combos can you do, or even how much playtime do you get for your dollar. After a game, an experience like ICO, there really is only one question left. How did it make you feel?